The Lamp of Hope. Introduction. There are moments in life when the darkness feels endless. Moments when the prayers seem unanswered. Moments when the tears fall silently in the middle of the night and no one hears them. Moments when the heart carries so much pain that even breathing feels like a burden. Perhaps you have experienced such moments. Perhaps you have stood at the edge of despair, wondering if tomorrow would ever be better than today. This is the story of a girl who stood in that darkness. A girl whose world was shattered by tragedy. A girl who lost almost everything she loved. A girl who cried until she had no tears left. And yet, through every storm, every heartbreak, and every impossible challenge, one thing remained: a small light, a tiny flame, a lamp, not merely a lamp made of brass and glass, but a lamp of hope, because hope is a strange thing. It can survive where strength fails. It can shine where joy disappears. It can whisper, "Keep going," when every voice around you says, "Give up." This is the story of Amara, a story of loss, a story of faith, a story of miracles, and a story that proves that even the smallest light can overcome the greatest darkness. Chapter 1: The happiest house in Amara village. Long before sorrow entered her life, Amara was known as the happiest child in the village. Her laughter could be heard from one end of the village to the other. She lived with her parents in a small clay house near the river. The house was simple. The roof leaked during heavy rain. The walls were rough. The furniture was old. But inside those walls lived something many wealthy people never find: love. Every morning, Amara woke to the sound of her mother's singing. Every evening, she returned home to the warm smile of her father. Her father was a farmer. Her mother sold vegetables at the market. They worked hard every day, yet somehow they always found time for Amara. Every night, before dinner, her father lit an old brass lamp. The lamp had belonged to his father before him. Its golden glow filled the room with warmth. As the flame danced, he always repeated the same words: "Never fear the darkness, Amara. A single light can guide 1,000 steps." Amara loved hearing those words. She never imagined how much they would one day mean. Chapter 2: The storm. The rainy season arrived stronger than anyone expected. Dark clouds covered the sky for days. The river swelled beyond its banks. Farmers worried about their crops. Fishermen stayed home. Even the birds seemed restless. One morning, Amara's parents prepared for a journey to a nearby town. They needed to buy seeds for the next planting season. Amara hugged them tightly. "Come back quickly," she said. Her mother smiled. "We will." Her father kissed her forehead. "And remember what I always tell you." Amara grinned. "A single light can guide 1,000 steps." Her father laughed. "Exactly." Then they left. It was the last time she would ever see them alive. By afternoon, the storm intensified. Rain pounded the earth. Thunder shook the sky. The river became a monster. Hours passed. Then evening arrived. Still no sign of her parents. The villagers grew concerned. By nightfall, a search party was formed. Amara waited and waited and waited. The lamp burned on the table, its flame flickering softly. Midnight came. Then a knock sounded at the door. Amara's heart leaped. Their home. She ran to open the door. But standing outside were 3 village elders. Their faces carried a sorrow she had never seen before. The moment she looked into their eyes, she knew something was terribly wrong. Chapter 3: The News. One of the elders stepped forward. Tears filled his eyes. Amara. His voice trembled. The words seemed stuck in his throat. Finally, he spoke. The bridge collapsed. The world suddenly became silent. No thunder, no rain, no wind, nothing, only silence. Amara stared blankly. "What do you mean?" The elder lowered his head. The river swept away the cart. No. The word escaped her lips like a whisper. No. Her breathing quickened. No. The room spun around her. Her legs gave way. She collapsed onto the floor. The lamp continued burning, its flame dancing peacefully while her world fell apart. That night, Amara cried harder than she had ever cried before. She cried until her body shook. She cried until she could barely breathe. She cried until there were no tears left. And still the pain remained. Chapter for a heart full of questions. The funeral was held 3 days later. The entire village attended. People spoke kind words. People offered comfort. People prayed. But nothing could fill the empty space in Amara's heart. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Yet the pain remained. Every night she sat beside the old lamp. Sometimes she stared at the flame for hours. Sometimes she whispered prayers. Sometimes she simply cried. One evening she asked the question that countless broken hearts have asked throughout history. God, why? Why her parents? Why her family? Why her life? Why so much pain? The room remained silent. No answer came. Yet somehow the lamp continued burning. It's like refusing to surrender to the darkness. Chapter 5: The Beginning of Hope. After the tragedy, Amara moved in with her grandmother. The old woman was kind but poor. Life became difficult. Food was scarce. Money was scarce. Opportunities were scarce. Many nights they ate only one meal. Sometimes they had none. Yet every evening, her grandmother lit the old lamp. One night Amara asked, "Why do you always light it?" Her grandmother smiled gently. "Because hope must never be allowed to die." Amara looked at the small flame. It seemed so weak, so fragile, so insignificant. Yet it pushed back the darkness filling the room. For the first time since her parents died, Amara began to understand. Perhaps hope wasn't about having answers. Perhaps hope was choosing to believe that tomorrow could still be better, even when today hurts. And that tiny realization became the first spark of a journey that would change her life forever. Chapter 6: The Days of Hunger. As the months passed, life became harder than Amara could have imagined. The little savings her grandmother had managed to keep were disappearing quickly. The old woman could no longer work in the farms as she once did. Her knees hurt constantly. Her back ached. Even walking long distances became difficult. Amara watched helplessly. Every morning she woke before sunrise. She swept compounds, fetched water, gathered firewood, and after all that, she hurried to school. Many times she attended classes with an empty stomach, while other children opened lunch baskets filled with food. Amara sat quietly beneath a tree. Sometimes she pretended she was not hungry. Sometimes she drank water to silence the pain. Yet hunger is difficult to hide. One afternoon, a classmate noticed her. "Why don't you ever eat?" the girl asked. Amara forced a smile. "I'm not hungry," but the lie sounded weak. The truth was obvious. That evening she returned home exhausted. As she entered the house, she noticed her grandmother sitting beside the lamp. The old woman appeared worried. "Grandmother," the old woman looked up. "There is no food left." The words hit Amara like a stone. No food. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Amara felt fear rising inside her chest. For the first time in her life, she truly understood how fragile survival could be. That night they shared the last bowl of cassava. It wasn't enough, but they thanked God anyway. As they prayed, Amara looked at the lamp. Its flame seemed smaller than usual, yet it still burned, and somehow that gave her comfort. Chapter 7: The Mocking Voices. The following year brought new challenges. At school, some children began mocking Amara because of her poverty. Her uniform was old. Her shoes were torn. Sometimes she came to school carrying books tied together with string because she couldn't afford a proper bag. One afternoon during break time, a group of students laughed as she walked past. "Look at her shoes." Another student laughed. Maybe she found them in a rubbish pile. The group erupted with laughter. Amara felt her cheeks burn. She lowered her head and kept walking, but their words followed her. Each insult felt like another wound. That evening she sat beside the river. For the first time in months, tears filled her eyes again. Maybe they were right. Maybe she would never become anything. Maybe dreams were only for rich people. Maybe life had already decided her future. As she sat there, lost in sadness, she remembered something her father once told her. Never let other people decide your worth. The memory felt so real that she almost turned around expecting to see him. But he wasn't there. Only the river, only the wind, only memories. Yet those words stayed with her, and slowly she stood up. She wiped away her tears. Then she walked home, not because she felt strong, but because she refused to let the voices of others become the voice she believed. Chapter 8: The Stranger in the Forest. One Saturday morning, Amara went into the forest to gather firewood. The journey was long. The path was quiet. Birds sang among the trees. Sunlight filtered through the leaves. As she bent to collect fallen branches, she noticed an old man sitting beneath a tree. His clothes were dusty. His face showed signs of age and weariness. He looked exhausted. Amara approached carefully. "Sir, are you all right?" The man smiled weakly. "I am just tired." Without hesitation, Amara offered him the small bottle of water she carried. The old man drank gratefully. "You are kind." They spoke for a while. The traveler listened as Amara shared parts of her story. Her parents, her struggles, her dreams. The old man remained silent for several moments. Then he reached into an old leather bag. Inside was a beautiful brass lamp. Its surface was aged but elegant. Intricate patterns covered its sides. Amara stared at it. "It is beautiful." The old man smiled. "It belonged to my father." Amara immediately shook her head. "I cannot accept something so valuable." The traveler gently placed the lamp into her hands. "Take it." "But why?" The old man's eyes seemed to shine. Because one day you will need to remember something important. What? The traveler pointed toward the dark shadows beneath the trees. Darkness always appears stronger than light. Then he pointed to a beam of sunlight breaking through the forest canopy. But appearances can deceive. Amara listened carefully. The traveler continued. A single light can defeat an entire room of darkness. Never forget that. Those words sounded strangely familiar, almost identical to what her father used to say. Before she could ask another question, the traveler stood. He smiled, then slowly walked down the path. Amara watched him disappear among the trees. She never saw him again. Chapter 9: The Scholarship Announcement. Years passed. Amara grew older. Despite every obstacle, she remained one of the brightest students in her school. Her determination impressed many teachers. Among them was Mrs. Grace. Mrs. Grace believed Amara possessed extraordinary potential. One afternoon, she called Amara after class. "I want to show you something." She handed her a document. Amara looked down. It was an application for a national scholarship program. Her eyes widened. "This is for outstanding students." Mrs. Grace smiled. "Exactly." Amara's heart sank. "Thousands will apply, and I won't be chosen." Mrs. Grace leaned forward. "Who told you that?" Amara hesitated. "No one." "Then stop speaking defeat over yourself." Those words struck her deeply. Mrs. Grace continued. "You have survived things many adults could not survive. You have worked harder than most people ever will. Apply." Reluctantly, Amara agreed. Weeks passed, then months. Eventually, she stopped thinking about it. Life remained busy. School, work, helping her grandmother. The scholarship seemed like a distant dream, until one unforgettable morning. The principal entered the classroom carrying a letter. His face was glowing with excitement. "Amara." Her heart raced. The classroom became silent. She slowly stood. The principal smiled. "You've been awarded the scholarship." For a moment, she thought she had heard incorrectly. The room blurred. Her knees weakened. Tears filled her eyes. The impossible had happened. Her dream had taken its first step toward reality. Chapter 10: The Night of Gratitude. That evening, Amara ran all the way home. She burst through the door. "Grandmother." The old woman nearly dropped the pot she was holding. What happened? Amara could barely speak. Her tears arrived before her words. Finally, she handed over the letter. Her grandmother adjusted her glasses and began reading. As she reached the final line, tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks. Neither spoke. They simply stood there crying together. Years of struggle, years of sacrifice, years of uncertainty. And now, for the first time, a doorway had opened. That night they prepared a small celebration. There was no feast, no expensive food, only gratitude. After dinner, Amara placed the brass lamp on the table. She lit it carefully. The golden glow filled the room. As she stared at the flame, memories flooded her heart. Her parents, the storm, the loneliness, the hunger, the mockery, the countless nights she nearly gave up. Yet here she was, still standing, still believing, still moving forward. Her grandmother noticed the tears in her eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Amara smiled softly. "The light." Her grandmother looked at the lamp. Yes, Amara nodded. No matter how dark things became, it never stopped shining. The old woman smiled knowingly. That is because hope was never in the lamp. Amara looked confused. Then where was it? Her grandmother gently touched her chest. It was always here. Amara looked down. For the first time, she truly understood. The lamp had never been magical. The real miracle was the hope that survived inside her heart. And as the flame danced quietly in the darkness, Amara realized her journey was only beginning. Greater challenges awaited. Greater storms were coming. But so were greater miracles. And somewhere deep inside, the lamp of hope burned brighter than ever before. Chapter 11: The Journey to the City. The day Amara left for university was one of the happiest days of her life. The entire village seemed excited. Neighbors came to wish her well. Children followed her down the dusty road. Even the village elders gathered to pray for her. For years, people had watched her struggle. They had seen her lose her parents. They had seen her work tirelessly. And now, they were watching her step into a future that once seemed impossible. As the bus prepared to leave, Amara hugged her grandmother tightly. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "You must never forget who you are." "I won't." "And never forget God." "I won't." Her grandmother smiled. "Good." Then she reached into Amara's bag and placed the brass lamp inside. "The lamp of hope belongs with you." Amara nodded. As the bus pulled away, she watched her village disappear into the distance. Her heart was full of excitement. For the first time, she felt like her dreams were within reach. She had no idea that her greatest challenges were still ahead. Chapter 12: A world she had never known. The city was unlike anything Amara had ever seen. Tall buildings stretched toward the sky. Cars filled the streets. People rushed everywhere. Nothing seemed to slow down. Everything felt overwhelming. University was even more intimidating. Students came from wealthy families. Many had attended prestigious schools. They spoke confidently, dressed elegantly, and seemed far more prepared than she was. During her first lecture, Amara felt completely lost. The professor moved through the material at incredible speed. Students answered questions she barely understood. For the first time in years, doubt began creeping into her heart. That night she sat alone in her small dormitory room. Books covered the desk. Assignments were already piling up. Fear whispered in her ear, "Maybe you don't belong here. Maybe the scholarship committee made a mistake. Maybe everyone else is smarter." The thoughts grew louder. Amara opened her bag. Inside was the brass lamp. She placed it on the table. For a long time, she simply stared at it. Then she remembered her father's words. "A single light can guide 1,000 steps." Slowly, she opened her textbook, then another and another. If she couldn't take 1,000 steps today, she would take one. And sometimes one step is enough. Chapter 13: The Unexpected Setback. Months passed. Amara worked harder than she ever had before. She studied late into the night. She attended every lecture. She rarely missed an assignment. Yet despite all her effort, something unexpected happened. She failed an important examination. When the results were posted, she stared at the paper in disbelief. Her name was there. Beside it was a failing grade. The world seemed to stop. students walked past celebrating their success. Some laughed, some hugged one another. Amara stood frozen. The scholarship required her to maintain high academic performance. A failure could place everything at risk. That evening she locked herself in her room. For hours she cried, not because of the grade alone, but because of what it represented. Fear, disappointment, shame. She had fought so hard to reach this point. Now it felt like everything was slipping away. The following morning she avoided everyone. She skipped breakfast, skipped lunch, skipped conversations. She simply sat alone, lost in disappointment. For the first time in years, she questioned whether she could continue. Chapter 14: The Crisis of Faith. Days turned into weeks. Amara's heart grew heavier. Her prayers became shorter, then less frequent, then almost non-existent. A painful question kept returning. Why would God bring me this far just to let me fail? She tried pushing the thought away, but it returned every night. Eventually, her frustration became anger. One evening, she sat alone in her dormitory. Rain tapped against the window. Thunder rolled through the sky. The room felt cold, empty, lonely. Amara looked at the lamp, the same lamp that had comforted her for years. This time she felt nothing, only pain, only disappointment, only silence. She folded her arms. "Where are you, God?" No answer. Her eyes filled with tears. "I trusted you." Still silence. "I believed." Nothing. The room remained quiet. For several moments she simply cried. Then something unexpected happened. A memory surfaced. Not a voice, not a miracle, just a memory. Her grandmother sat beside the lamp years ago, speaking gently. The purpose of faith is not to remove every storm. Amara remembered those words clearly. The purpose of faith is to help you survive the storm. The realization struck her deeply. Perhaps faith was never about avoiding failure. Perhaps faith was about standing up again after failure. For the first time in weeks, she prayed. Not a perfect prayer, not a long prayer, just a simple one. "Lord, help me keep going." And somehow that was enough. Chapter 15: The Biggest Test. Just when life seemed ready to improve, tragedy struck again. One afternoon, Amara received a phone call. It was from a neighbor in the village. The moment she heard his voice, her stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Amara." The man's voice trembled. "Your grandmother is seriously ill." The words hit her like lightning. Her heart dropped instantly. "How bad is it?" There was a long silence. Then came the answer she feared. "Very bad." Everything else became a blur. The journey home felt endless. Every minute felt like an hour. Every mile felt like 1,000. When she finally arrived, she rushed into the house. Her grandmother lay on a small bed. Weak, fragile, far weaker than Amara had ever seen. The woman who had carried her through every storm now looked as though she could barely lift her hand. Tears filled Amara's eyes. She knelt beside the bed. "Grandmother," the old woman smiled faintly. "You came." "Of course I came." For several moments neither spoke. Then her grandmother reached for her hand. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Listen carefully." Amara nodded through her tears. "You are stronger than you think. Please don't talk like this." The old woman smiled softly. Life will continue testing you. Amara shook her head. More tears flowed. You're going to be all right. Her grandmother looked at her lovingly. My child. The words were gentle, almost peaceful. Whether I stay or go, God will remain with you. Amara's heart shattered. Deep inside, she understood. This was not merely another challenge. This was the greatest test she had ever faced. The possibility of losing the last family member she had left. The possibility of walking through life completely alone. That night, Amara sat beside the brass lamp. Its golden glow illuminated the room. Her grandmother slept quietly nearby. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. Inside, fear battled hope, faith battled doubt, and for the first time since losing her parents, Amara faced a question she wasn't sure she could answer. If another storm came, would the lamp of hope still be enough? As the flame flickered in the darkness, she closed her eyes and prayed. Not for success, not for money, not for dreams, only for strength. Because she sensed that the hardest chapter of her life was about to begin. Chapter 16, the goodbye that broke her heart. The days following her return to the village felt heavy and uncertain. Amara remained beside her grandmother's bed almost constantly. She cooked, she cleaned, she gave her medicine, she prayed, and most importantly, she stayed close. Every morning she hoped to see improvement. Every evening she hoped the medicine was working. But deep inside, fear continued growing. Her grandmother was becoming weaker. The woman who had once carried baskets on her head and walked miles without complaint now struggled to sit upright. Yet despite her weakness, she never stopped smiling at Amara. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the window, her grandmother motioned for her to come closer. Amara sat beside the bed. The old woman gently touched her face. You have become everything your parents hoped you would be. Tears instantly filled Amara's eyes. Don't talk like that. Her grandmother smiled softly. My child, listen to me. Amara lowered her head. The old woman continued. There will come a time when I can no longer walk beside you. No, there will come a time when you must walk by faith alone. Amara squeezed her hand tightly. You are not leaving me. Her grandmother said nothing. Instead, she simply smiled. A smile filled with love. A smile filled with peace. A smile that somehow frightened Amara. That night she refused to sleep. She remained beside the bed, watching, praying, waiting, and just before dawn, her grandmother quietly slipped away. Without pain, without fear, without struggle, her breathing simply stopped. The room became silent. For several seconds, Amara stared in disbelief. Then reality crashed into her heart. No, her voice trembled. No, she grabbed her grandmother's hand. It was already growing cold. The tears came immediately. She cried harder than she had cried since losing her parents. The pain felt unbearable. The loneliness felt overwhelming. The last person who truly knew her story was gone. And once again, Amara found herself standing in the ruins of grief. Chapter 17, The Empty House. The funeral took place 3 days later. Villagers came from every corner of the region. Everyone loved her grandmother. Everyone respected her. Everyone mourned her loss. After the ceremony ended and the visitors departed, Amara returned home alone. The silence inside the house felt different now, painfully different. There was no grandmother sitting beside the lamp, no gentle voice, no comforting wisdom, only emptiness. That evening she sat at the old wooden table. The brass lamp stood before her. For the first time in years, she didn't light it. She simply stared at it. What was the point? Her parents were gone. Her grandmother was gone. Every person she loved seemed to disappear. The darkness outside slowly filled the room. Yet Amara made no effort to stop it. She allowed the darkness to come, allowed it to surround her, allowed it to settle over her heart. Hours passed, then something happened. A memory surfaced. She remembered her grandmother's voice. Hope must never be allowed to die. The words echoed through her mind. Again, and again, and again. Finally, with trembling hands, she reached for the lamp. A small flame appeared, tiny, fragile, simple, yet instantly the darkness retreated. Not entirely, but enough. And for the first time since the funeral, Amara cried tears that weren't only filled with grief. They were filled with remembrance and gratitude. Chapter 18, The Mysterious Letter. A week after the funeral, Amara began sorting through her grandmother's belongings. Most of the items were ordinary: old clothes, cooking utensils, family photographs, small keepsakes collected over many years. Then she discovered something unusual. Hidden inside a wooden box was an envelope. Her name was written across the front. To my precious Amara. Her heart immediately began racing. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. The familiar handwriting brought fresh tears to her eyes. She began reading. My dear Amara, if you are reading this, then I am no longer with you. I know your heart is hurting. I know you feel alone. But please listen carefully. You are not alone. You have never been alone. God was with you when you lost your parents. He was with you when hunger visited our home. He was with you when people mocked you. He was with you when you doubted yourself. And He will remain with you long after I am gone. Do not allow grief to convince you otherwise. There is something else you must know. Many years ago, before your parents died, your father shared a dream with me. He believed you would one day change countless lives. At the time, I didn't understand how. Now I do. Your pain has prepared you to heal the pain of others. Your struggles have prepared you to understand suffering. Your story is not ending. It is only beginning. Whenever life becomes difficult, look at the lamp. Not because the lamp has power, but because it reminds you of the hope God placed inside you. Keep walking, keep believing, keep shining, and remember that I will always love you. Grandmother. By the time Amara reached the end of the letter, tears covered the page. Yet something inside her had changed. For the first time since the funeral, she felt peace. Not complete peace. The grief remained, but alongside the grief stood something else. Purpose. Chapter 19, Returning to the Dream. A few weeks later, Amara returned to university. The journey felt different this time. The village seemed smaller, the road seemed longer, and her heart carried both sadness and determination. The grief did not disappear. There were still nights when she cried, still moments when she missed her grandmother terribly. Yet she continued moving forward, one lecture at a time, one assignment at a time, One day at a time, her professors noticed a change. There was a new seriousness about her, a deeper focus, a stronger determination. Every challenge reminded her why she had started. Every obstacle reminded her what she had overcome. Whenever exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, she reread her grandmother's letter. Whenever doubt returned, she looked at the lamp, and slowly, almost without realizing it, she began excelling again. Her grades improved, her confidence returned, her dream came alive once more. Chapter 20: The Miracle That Changed Everything. During her final year at university, something extraordinary happened. Our prestigious International Medical Foundation announced a nationwide competition. The prize was life-changing: full sponsorship for advanced medical training abroad. Thousands of students applied. The competition was fierce. Most participants came from wealthy backgrounds and elite institutions. Amara nearly refused to enter. The odds seemed impossible. Then she remembered something her teacher once told her: "Stop speaking defeat over yourself." So she applied. Weeks turned into months. Then came the interviews, the examinations, the presentations. Each stage became more challenging, yet somehow she continued advancing. One evening she received an email. Her hands shook as she opened it. Her heart pounded. The words blurred before her eyes. Then she read them again, and again, and again. She had won. Out of thousands of applicants, she had won. For several moments she simply sat in silence, unable to move, unable to think, unable to speak. Then tears began streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, not tears of grief, tears of gratitude. She immediately reached for the brass lamp, the same lamp that had traveled with her through every storm. The same lamp that had witnessed every heartbreak, every failure, every victory. She lit it carefully. The flame danced beautifully as she watched it. Memories flooded her mind. Her father, her mother, her grandmother, the village, the hunger, the loneliness, the doubts, the tears, the prayers, everything. And suddenly she understood. The miracle wasn't the scholarship. The miracle wasn't the competition. The miracle wasn't even the success. The real miracle was that despite every reason to quit, she never gave up. The lamp of hope had continued burning. And because it continued burning, her story was far from over. In fact, the greatest chapters were still waiting to be written. Chapter 21: A New Country, a New Beginning. For the first time in her life, Amara boarded an airplane. As the aircraft rose above the clouds, she pressed her forehead against the window and looked down at the world below. The villages, the roads, the rivers, everything became smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Beneath the clouds, she could hardly believe it. The little girl who once studied beside a flickering lamp in a tiny village was now traveling across the world. The scholarship had opened a door she never imagined possible. Yet excitement was not the only emotion she felt. There was fear too. The new country was different. Different language, different culture, different weather, different people. Everything felt unfamiliar. The first few months were difficult. Many nights she felt lonely. Many times she missed home. She missed hearing the sounds of her village. She missed her grandmother's voice. She missed the simple life she had always known. Sometimes she sat alone in her apartment and stared at the brass lamp. The lamp had traveled with her across oceans. It now sat on a desk beside her books, a reminder of where she came from, a reminder of who she was. And whenever loneliness threatened to overwhelm her, she remembered her grandmother's words. "You have never been alone." Slowly, Amara adapted. She learned, she grew, she excelled, and before long, she became one of the most respected students in the program. But God was preparing her for something much greater than academic success. Chapter 20 to the child who reminded her of herself. One rainy afternoon, Amara was completing her training at a children's hospital. The day had been long. Patients filled every room. Doctors moved quickly through the hallways. As Amara reviewed medical reports, she noticed a young boy sitting alone near a window. He couldn't have been older than 10. His clothes were worn, his face looked tired, and his eyes carried a sadness Amara immediately recognized. It was the same sadness she had once carried. The sadness of loss, the sadness of loneliness, the sadness of feeling forgotten. She approached him gently. "Hello." The boy looked up. "Hello, my name is Amara." The boy hesitated, then quietly replied, "My name is Samuel." Over the next few days, Amara learned his story. Samuel had lost both of his parents. He had no family nearby. No visitors came to see him. No one sat beside his bed. No one asked how he was feeling. Every day he faced the world alone. And every day Amara found herself spending more time with him. She listened. She encouraged him. She prayed with him. Eventually Samuel asked a question that pierced her heart. "Do things ever get better?" For a moment Amara could not speak, because years earlier she had asked that exact same question. She looked into the boy's eyes, then smiled softly. "Yes." Samuel looked doubtful. "Really?" Amara nodded. "Not immediately, not always the way we expect. But yes." The boy remained silent. Then Amara shared part of her own story. The loss, the grief, the struggles, the hope. As Samuel listened, something changed. A small smile appeared. For the first time, he believed that his future could be different from his present. And Amara realized something important. Her greatest purpose was not simply healing bodies. It was helping heal hearts. Chapter 23, The Call Home. Several years later, Amara completed her training. She received job offers from prestigious hospitals. Many offered impressive salaries, luxurious benefits, successful careers, everything she had once dreamed about. Yet something felt wrong. One evening she sat beside the lamp. The familiar flame flickered quietly. As she stared at it, memories filled her mind. The village, the children, the farmers, the struggles, the people who still lacked access to proper health care, the people who needed hope. Suddenly her decision became clear. Her future was not meant to remain abroad. Her future was waiting at home. A few weeks later she packed her belongings. Friends were shocked. "You are leaving?" "Yes." "Why?" Amara smiled. "Because someone once helped me when I needed it most. Now it was her turn to do the same for others." And so she returned home. Not as a frightened orphan, not as a struggling student, but as Dr. Amara, a woman carrying a mission, a woman carrying hope, Chapter 24: The Return to Amara Village. News of her return spread quickly. By the time she arrived, much of the village had gathered to welcome her. Children danced. Musicians played drums. Villagers cheered. Some elderly people wiped tears from their eyes. They remembered the little girl who had once walked barefoot through the village. Now she had returned as a doctor, as a leader, as an inspiration. Yet Amara had not returned for celebration. She had returned for service. Using her savings and support from charitable organizations, she began building a medical clinic. The project took months, then months became years, but eventually the dream became reality. For the first time, villagers could receive quality health care close to home. Mothers no longer traveled long distances for treatment. Children received vaccinations. Families received care. Lives were saved. The clinic became more than a building. It became a symbol, proof that hope could become reality, proof that pain could produce purpose, proof that impossible dreams sometimes come true. And every evening, after the clinic closed, Amara returned to her office. There, sitting quietly on a shelf, was the brass lamp, still shining, still reminding her, still guiding her. Chapter 25: The Legacy of the Lamp of Hope. One evening, many years later, a young girl arrived at the clinic. Her name was Faith. She was 12 years old, the same age Amara had been when she lost her parents. The girl sat quietly in a chair. Tears filled her eyes. Amara gently asked what was wrong. Faith shared her story. Her father had recently died. Her family was struggling. She felt hopeless, lost, broken. As Amara listened, memories flooded back. It was as though she were looking into a mirror reflecting her younger self. After their conversation, Amara walked into her office. She opened a drawer. Inside rested the brass lamp. Time had aged it. Its surface carried scratches and marks from decades of use. Yet it remained beautiful. She carefully picked it up and returned to the waiting room. Faith looked confused. "What is that?" Amara smiled. "This is the lamp of hope." The girl stared at it. "Is it special?" Amara nodded. "Very special." Then she began telling the story. The story of a little girl who lost her parents. The story of grief. The story of faith. The story of miracles. The story of hope. For hours Faith listened, and by the end of the story, tears filled her eyes. Not tears of despair, tears of possibility. Amara gently placed the lamp into her hands. Faith looked surprised. "You want me to keep it?" Amara smiled. "Yes, but why?" Amara pointed toward the girl's heart. "Because the light was never inside the lamp." Faith looked down, then slowly smiled. For the first time in a very long time. As the girl walked away carrying the lamp, Amara stood in the doorway watching. The sun was setting. Golden light filled the horizon, and suddenly she understood the true purpose of her journey. The lamp had never belonged to her. It had always belonged to the next person who needed hope, and the next, and the next, and the next. Because hope is not something we keep. Hope is something we pass on. Years later, long after Amara's own story had ended, people still spoke about her. Children grew up hearing the legend of the lamp of hope. Families shared the story around dinner tables. Teachers shared it in classrooms. Pastors shared it in churches. and generation after generation learned the same truth. Darkness may be powerful, pain may be real, loss may leave scars, but hope is stronger, faith is stronger, and with God, even the smallest light can illuminate the darkest night. Moral lessons. The lamp of hope was never made of brass. It was made of faith, courage, perseverance, and trust in God. As long as that lamp burns within the human heart, no darkness can ever truly win. If this story inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today.